Let me say a pleasant and good Monday morning to one and all. Welcome to The Point. Today being Monday. It's the 11th day of November, 2024. Good morning to one and all. And certainly hope all is well with you. Those of you viewing us this morning via GBN TV, good morning to you. Those of you listening, Classic Radio, special morning to you also. Whatever part of the island you tuned in, I want to wish one and all a great morning. On Mondays, I do have Mr. Sylvan McIntyre. He's going to be a little bit late this morning. I actually delayed a little bit just in order to hope that he will get here in time, but promise that he'll be here. Sadly, just a little prior engagement that has caused the delay. So let me say good morning once again, especially though the Drivers of the Nation Road. Our program is always, engaging conversation where we speak about, of course, how folks use our nation's roads, the do's and don'ts. We help you to, focus as you drive along our nation's road. That's our main objective here most mornings. And of course, we talk a whole lot about the ways that you can make your driving experience a whole lot better, and just the mere use of our nation's roads. Of course, that's our prior concern always when we do entertain the program here on To The Point. And so as soon as Mr. Mac pops in, yes, Mr. McIntyre. I don't like to call him Mr. Mac, but Mr. McIntyre. As soon as he pops in, we certainly will get into the conversation this morning. We do have a lot. Of course, our usual review. We had of course, a bit of that recent tropical wave that of course affected the island. Was it on Friday night? And we saw a lot of folks talking about that. There were, of course, become some mudslides and blockage in various areas that affected the commute a wee bit. And we're happy to hear that some areas already got cleared up, and they are still working on certain areas. So we saw our lone water company had a bit of a shutting off the valve in certain areas in order to get the various dams cleaned up and so forth. And certainly, we of course are happy that nothing major happened, and so we certainly those of you who are of course a little bit thrown off. I got some calls from folks complaining about the water issue. Man, I know what it's like to have it, and sometimes we misuse it, and when we don't have it, that's when hey, we don't have the water now, and that's where we see the concerns really. So there's always that saying, you never miss it until you don't have it anymore. Yeah. All right, so Mr. McIntyre will certainly be joining me shortly, and we certainly be getting to the conversation this morning. Once again, those of you via social media platforms, good morning. If you are there in the U.S., Canada, good morning to you. Those of you in the various Caribbean islands who are viewing and listening to the program this morning, thanks for being with us here on To The Point. So certainly hope all is well with you this morning. Until Mr. McIntyre pops in, we probably could entertain a couple of your phone calls this morning. Let's see, of course, hear about some of your concerns. Of course, that relates to issues around you until Mr. McIntyre pops in, and then we get into the meat of the matter in terms of our conversation. Caller, you're welcome. And good morning.
Morning, how was your weekend? I hope it was fine. I want to go straight to the point. I want to say God bless us with oil and gas. I hope and pray it doesn't destroy our environment. And I hope and pray that the government, Mr. Deacon and his ministers, set aside some funds for the disabled, the elderly, for transportation, a card that would get us to all medical stations, to the grocery stores, because the elderly is not able to get around. So they'll put aside some monies in the government kettle for bus service, a card that would get the seniors to and from the medicals, and to get some food. They're having a struggle. We're having a struggle. They will get old too. I hope they're thinking about the elderly. I hope when they get old, they will need it. We and me. I hope we all think about the elderly. God bless. Have a good day.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much for your contribution this morning. Totally not the direction in terms of the conversation this morning, usually here on a Monday, but it's not directly an open line which you can just end any of your views this morning, but it relates to, focus on road safety issues and so forth. I would love to hear a conversation of that nature on the program this morning. And of course, we leave the regular talk for when we do have an open line where you can, of course, contribute to, of course, whatever bits and pieces you would like to speak about. So it's really not that level of the conversation we're having this morning. 10 minutes after the hour this morning, just in case you were wondering what time it is. Once again, our urge is for road users to please take it easy on the various roads. There are probably roads who still have some bit of debris on it. So I certainly ask that you drive along along with that, due care and attention. Roads where the debris is still there, maybe have not been totally cleared, and maybe still some mud and so forth on those roads. There are areas that had those mudslides, even though it may have been cleared, that they make it a free flow of traffic. Sometimes that silk still remain on the roads. That could sometimes be of an issue for you. So please take it easy as you drive along the nation road this morning. It's Classic Radio, GBN TV, to the point for today, Monday, and once again, best day to one and all. So I hope everybody is doing okay. We're going to take a break and settle in for a wee bit. And of course, after the break, hopefully Mr. McIntyre will join us then. And we certainly will be able to, of course, go through with him. We'll be right back after the break.
Tourism is me. Tourism is you. Tourism is everybody, and tourism connects us all.
Did you know that tourism generates revenue and foreign exchange earnings?
Did you know it stimulates infrastructural development and facilitates cultural exchange among people?
You must know tourism is linked to all industries,
from agriculture to construction.
So support the industry today and be welcoming to all our visitors.
Tourism is my business. Tourism is your business. Tourism is our business. Listen, one and all. Tourism connects us all.
A message from the Ministry of Tourism
and the Grenada Tourism Authority.
Coming up, Friendship 7K excitement, local business support in St. Martin, greater air travel to destinations like Barbuda, accommodated in style, the contributions of Raymond Lawrence. It's all next on this station.
Hello, everybody. My name is Renee Goodwin, and I am the marketing manager here at True Blue Bay Resort. And I am so excited to invite you all to join us every Thursday on GBN, starting from November 7th, as we count down to the holiday season, right here at True Blue Bay Resort, Grenada's best family-friendly resort for visitors and locals.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. Still awaiting, of course, my co-host, Mr. McIntyre, hasn't arrived as yet, so which means we still will continue to take you through. In this segment, of course, we're going to entertain some of your calls. Let me hear of your, of course, your take in terms of road issues that you may have been concerned about. As maybe a road user yourself, you may be a driver who drive along on the nation's roads, and you have some concerns in terms of road the safety conditions of our roads, issues that you may like to talk about, issues you may like the authority to look into in terms of road of use in Grenada today, and road safety in general that you may have a concern. You could probably give me a call and let us have a bit of a discussion on that as we move along this morning. Certainly we'll wait until Mr. McIntyre pops in. 435-2041, open line. The lines are open for your calls and relates to that. Let's talk a wee bit about, road safety issues. And the past two shows, myself and Mr. McIntyre, of course, we did speak a whole lot about that. And you may have some concerns as relates to that also in terms of issues of road safety and things you would like the authority to put some attention to for, in terms of, making the road users like yourself, if you're a driver, or even pedestrians, making it a much safer for them as they use our nation's roads. 435-2041. And we're taking you through this morning here on the program, folks. And as I mentioned, Mr. McIntyre is a little bit engaged in a prior, of course, he had a prior engagement. And, of course, did mention to me that it's going to be a bit late this morning. Thought he would have been here at least by now, but he hasn't here as yet. So let's entertain a call. Let's hear from you this morning as it relates to, issues and concerns that you may have that relates to, road safety and some of the concerns that, of course, you may like to speak about. Let's go to the phone line. Caller, good morning, and you're welcome.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Tell me something. How much feet somebody should leave the boundary mark and occupy the road the public road, really, from the property.
How much feet someone should use in terms of their property from the road?
Well, going into the road, they leave the property and controlling about 6 feet into the road.
So are you saying that individuals, their property, let's for argument's sake, their property is very close to the road, I would say.
Well, not that close. You have enough space. The road is wide enough. I mean, not wide enough because they took in a few feet into the road, leave the fence, and put some blockade into the road at 6 feet from their
property into the road.
Into the road.
Well, I per se cannot give you an exact distance in terms of feet that someone should use or being allowed to, if that's the proper way of saying it. We maybe have to speak to the planning and so forth, or Ministry of Works, who may be able to give us, of course, information in its relation to that in terms of the amount of feet that is needed. I per se cannot give you that. I don't have that information before me right now.
But what about the police coming in to check these roads and things and to make the people move the barricade that they put into the road from the fence?
Well, did you try speaking to anyone in the authority as relation to that? I mean, it's sort of, you call here, and I appreciate you calling in, but sometimes, you can engage the authority first, and maybe if you're not getting the satisfaction from them, then you probably could try other avenues. But if it's becoming a problem for you in terms of an individual using the road, taking out some portions of the road, then you could probably speak to the authority, get some information in relation to have that resolved.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that, this happening in many areas, many areas, especially side roads,
All right. I certainly do understand where you're coming from. So from time you're driving around, myself, and you will see that issues of that nature where folks are encroaching on the road a whole lot, of course, from their property. And sometimes you wonder the reason why they're doing that. You understand? All right. Thank you for your contribution this morning.
No problem.
I appreciate it a whole lot. As I do understand where the caller is coming from, but I myself cannot give you that distance that is needed. I'm sure that information I may have to get for you from the authority, Ministry of Works, or whoever may be able to give me that information in terms of folks, the distance that is needed from your property to the road, if you can. I don't think you could take anything onto the road too anyway. Anyway, let's see whether this caller has to contribute this morning. Caller, you're live. Good morning.
Hi. Good morning, GT.
Good morning to you, sir.
If my memory serves me well, I think that from 40 feet, a distance 40 feet from the center of the road is the purview of the government. They can use it for expansion of the road, widening, or anything like that. So anyone who puts any permanent structure within that 40 feet is liable to lose it.
Okay.
Should the state decide that they want to do anything to the road. So while you may put up something temporary, you have to know that the government has 40 feet from the center. From the center of the road. That they can make use of at any time.
That's interesting to know. Thank you so much for that.
One other quick thing before I leave. I've not been around the island, but I understand there are a lot of landslides in many different parts. And I dare say that many of those landslides, from what I've heard, was set up by the state. Over the years, we have, in the name of devotion, gone into people's property and cut the sides of the road, all the trees and the roots that were supposed to hold up the road. We have cut them out just to create work for people. And I've been saying over and over again, it's going to haunt us along the road. And if I were a property owner and I lost any of my property as a result of the state cutting the foliage and the plants that were supposed to hold up my property, I would sue the government. I would sue the state, because we did this thing wantonly for a number of years just in the name of creating work. And this is so unfortunate. And some of these people were, ironically, they were called environmental wardens for destroying our environment. So a lot of the landslides, not all of them, but many of them on the roadside are the result of actions taken by the state in recent years. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your contribution this morning. Interesting to know that 40 feet from the center of the road, that's a distance. Of course, we could see, of course, and I certainly hope the gentleman is correct about that. He speak with some bit of authority in terms of knowing that distance, but we could always hear from the authorities themselves the exact measurement. But so happy to know that. 4352041. Still haven't seen Mr. McIntyre popping in us as yet. As soon as he comes through, we will certainly entertain. Let's take your calls as a reference to, of course, road safety this morning. That's the way of our conversation. And I see my good buddies popping in. So this is live TV. We're going to probably entertain you live coming in on here this morning without going for a cut. So you can certainly join me. So it's not a problem. We'll as I say, you can do it sometime. It's live TV, so you can happily do that. How are you this morning?
I am good.
Yeah.
Not so happy that I made it this time.
Well, sometimes things happen. Sometimes things happen. I was just entertaining some calls from our listeners. I was just dealing with road safety issues that they may have, and someone just calling in reference to distance that someone is allowed to approach on the road from their property.
In building.
Or build something of that nature on the road, And I had one call. He wanted to know the exact distance. Someone called and said that it's 40 feet from the middle of the road.
Right.
That government have the right to maybe confiscate that extra bit of property if you for whatever reason, for expansion or whatever reason of the sort.
Yeah. So the government. Let me say good morning to everyone. My apology. I'm sure you did that.
Yes. I said you have that prior engagement. So
yes, and it speaks about the time that we take to do businesses in Grenada.
Yeah.
Something that should, in my opinion, take a few minutes. Went on for an hour plus. And we've had criticisms across the international community in terms of places to do business, how well and how efficient that process really is. Mm-hmm. It leaves a lot to be desired still in terms of, and I vow never to take an appointment for 8 o'clock on a Monday morning when I have my program at 9. Because that, in my opinion, should have taken about 15 minutes. And should have given me sufficient time to be here.
I understand.
The issue in terms of...
Sometimes you have to weigh the options of it to traffic congestion, all of these things will play a part.
That's correct.
Sometimes, I ever have this thing, I try to do it after midday, which works for me.
Yes.
I'm off from work, so I know I have nothing really else to worry about in terms, so I try to put appointments around that time, which works for me really good. So how was your weekend, sir?
My weekend was really good. Personally, yes. But in terms of what transpired, I think we had the conversation. We were going to have a conversation regarding the inclement weather. And
where did that come from?
It came from the atmosphere. And I think we did mention earlier on in our programs, you remember we spoke about October?
Yeah.
There's a different pattern we observe within the last decade of rainfall, October into December. And what happens is that when you have those waves, tropical wave, interacting with the ITCZ, it creates some unexplained phenomena in terms of the kind of rainfall. So even if the forecast may give an indication as to what it's likely to be, some may end up being less or some may end up being more based on what the forecast has given. Yeah. And so over the weekend we saw some of that, and people were asking the same question you asked, where did that come from?
Yeah.
But it was not a surprise because Met did forewarn. They did speak of the tropical wave that was interacting, that was coming through on the Friday evening into night, and should have come through, was forecasted for Saturday in the morning, thereabout, to be cleared up.
All right. Because, I've been hearing the conversation on social media and some folks saying they was unaware of it, and no information on this burst on it. So
right. So, no, that's not true.
That's why I want some clarification on that.
No, that's not quite true. And I think people are annoyed because of the inconvenience caused and some of the things in some cases. But in my opinion, the average Grenadian, when something isn't really happening in the back of our woods, we really don't pay particular attention to it. If life seems to be normal, there's some information that would just go past. There are some people who tell you that they are aware of it. They follow the local news.
Yes.
I mean, I'm in touch with GB and I follow every news that GB has, basically. Yes. And I follow the weather, even if I have access to getting the information myself from other sources. But I follow all local Met service. And that morning, Trisha Miller was on.
Yes.
And Innocent actually had asked her to expand on the information regarding that wave that was coming through. And she did expand on it and did say that we were going to get possible thunder showers expected, and I was going to go into late evening Friday into Saturday. So that was clear, and so the people who don't really follow news and follow weather in that kind of a way, and there are those who just sometimes look for things to criticize.
Yeah, but sometimes information of that nature will slip us for various reasons.
Yeah.
For various reasons. It's just not what we want to hear.
Yeah.
We don't want to hear that. Or even though we hear, we don't put the attention to it because we don't see it. Oh, we always hear we're going to get some thunder showers. We always hear that. So
right.
we always look at it in that particular way. We're going to get some thunder showers and maybe just be heavy rains and stop. I'm not looking for the lightning, except I have a friend who called and had lost appliances.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
Because of the lightning and stuff like that. I have friends who may have was online at the time, computer got damaged and stuff like that. It happens. Yeah. It happens in isolated areas.
Yes.
Not everybody got take of it, but so sometimes information of nature, sometimes people just don't pick it up for their own reason.
Yeah, but I also think while you are okay with that, there is still a weakness in our system, our information system. In that, and I think we mentioned and spoke of it when I was with the agency. We did speak about the Met Office would go so far in terms of the information they can give, and within the time they should give it. So if it is not like something that is continuously affecting us, or it's increasing, or there are differences in terms of what it is likely to do, the information would just be when it is supposed to be. And they do have time when they give weather news, weather forecast, and so on, and they would post it at a particular time. But what we are seeing nationally, the information entities across country should take up the slack and expand on the information, so that while Met Office would go off into further monitoring systems, people, the networks and media houses, etc., could expand on information and remind followers and listeners, listen, Met spoke about this system that is affecting us, that is likely to come through, and the effects it can have. They did say land slippage and flooding in areas so prone. But that information given at 7+ after GBN Morning News, it stays there until the other time. So what we're saying, even your programs during the course of the day, somebody could have fed you
updates and
right, and so that the people who did not get that information earlier, they could follow through and say, that we had this commentary. Because the average person who's going into his farm, going to the office or otherwise, probably missed that weather news and didn't really follow through. Yeah. But if there's an aspect of, remember again, folks, that the Met Office has said that within the evening time or so later on, we're expecting to have some showers, thunder showers, and so on. So don't be surprised if we happen to get some thunder and some lightning later on.
But the signs was not there most of the daytime too. Eh?
It wasn't.
The sign was not there.
Sunny.
It was basically hot sun for most of the daytime.
Yes.
The sun was practically hot until late evening. Then just around after 7, 8, that's when I started seeing the lightning and stuff started.
Yes.
You understand? And even when the lightning and stuff started, there was not much shower or rain coming along with it as yet.
So here what? It reiterates the fact that there is climate change.
Yeah.
There is climate variability, and there's unpredictability with systems. So while our instruments may be able to pick up certain information and say this is likely to happen, the magnitude of it is not always very accurate.
The prediction of it.
The predictions, if they met people, they do forecasts and not necessarily predictions. But so when there is a release, the impact of it is likely to be on time, on point, before or after. So there's always a margin of error, there's always a margin of uncertainty, and there's also a margin of impact as to exactly what it should have. But we believe that it is modern day, and there are times that there are some information that could be expanded a bit more, and there are some things that we should be able to be a bit more precise with. And I think, inability sometimes to invest in the instruments and equipment that would probably give us finer details. So for instance, you have these instruments that give you very fine details when you do MRIs, CT scan, and all these. And there are persons who have instruments that will still give you these massive blocks. And so the expert will have to go and break it finer. But if you invest and spend a few more $100,000 into instruments,
detail information some more for you.
More detail. That's why we have to sometimes go to other countries, because they say that this system, these machines would give you more minute details as to what it is and give the experts give you closer diagnosis of what the system should be. Similar to hydrometeorological occurrences, we do have instruments and equipment and so forth, radar or otherwise activated, that gives you very, very smaller and finer detail. To this point, Grenada, when we do give rainfall across country, you'd hear some of the forecasters say, as recorded here at the airport.
Yeah.
What that is saying is that this is the amount of rainfall that is recorded at the airport and not necessarily the amount of rainfall across country.
Across country.
And so that's one of the things that we should get away from. And so we should also get to the point where we should be able, while people say, yes, it is a smaller area of Grenada, we cannot compare ourselves with the larger countries because there are places in the world that when they say to you that you're going to get X amount of rainfall in Grande Town or in Bajo, you will get it, more likely than not. It is also very highly possible for us to be able to get more final details across Grenada as to what's happening.
We are small because we are much smaller.
When we are capturing rainfall, we have AWS automatic weather stations set up across Grenada. It is our inability to access that information.
But is it not relayed to one central point?
It should be, because you have agriculture, you have NAWASA, you have the Met Services themselves and other entities who are capturing rainfall across country. Yeah. But I think the weakness in the system is the ability to be able to process that, bring it together at a particular time to be able to report it.
Okay.
And it's one of the weaknesses that we need to improve. And in terms of disseminating information, I believe personally that we should get to the point. And if you listen to the forecasters, most of the time they speak about, it gives you a lot of, well, it may or may not. It is possible because, as we say, they do not give a prediction, they give forecast. Yes. But we still believe that in the forecasting, and maybe we can have one of them speak to the issue as to whether or not it is possible to say whether or not, or closer to the moment that this is likely to happen. I think that has been one of the discussions across country, or the criticism, that while there is forecast given, but people still tend to expect that you should be able to get more details, and closer to the moment you should be able to get further information that indicate, well, this is likely to happen at this time. Oh. So maybe our systems nationally, we can look at that and we can possibly try and improve it. It doesn't seem to be too much of a surprise. While there's negligence across country and there's complacency across country to access and receive the information, we still believe that there's a lot more we can do in getting information readily accessible and more consistent, more in the face of people. So we have less anxiety and less disturbance and retardation of the system. Because when these things do happen, it sets back quite a bit.
Yeah.
It has a lot of economic impact. Yeah. People who have to plan and do things. Because weather forecasting and all these information, it is also critical to planning processes, what you have to do. So if you understand that likely later on, because when I go to the farm or otherwise, I follow the weather news to figure out whether or not I should do this aspect of farming at this time, whether or not I should put some insecticide or pesticide at this time, or whether it's going to get washed off. If I understand the sun is going to be bright and sunny over there, I realize at a particular time of the day I should not, because it may have a stronger effect, the leaves may burn, etc. If I realize it's overcast or gets little rain, I will figure, okay, it is better for me to apply it now. So it is really good for planning processes across country. Yeah. So the better our system do, the more improved we are, the more updated we are with modern instruments, it is good overall for all of us. Now we are reacting to clean up of land slippage, debris in different areas and so forth. And I listened to the CTO in, I think, Works and Mobilization or Infrastructure. Yeah. They were speaking about the community mobilization, how they got people to come out and work. That's the kind of a system and structure you want. And you need the system to be able to run itself. So like we had over the weekend, loss of communication, temporary, and it was sporadic. In some cases it was up, other cases it was down. So what happens according to the national response system is that you have road officers and you have a system with a national agency that if you have land slippage, you have rockfall or otherwise, and there's no communication that comes across to you from the person who's supposed to inform you, that there is these MOUs that are signed or agreed upon, that they would go out, engage, get the thing cleaned up, and thereafter sending claims. They don't really have to wait to be
I had a
mobilized.
caller, not to cut you, but I had a caller calling a while ago and made the statement that, some of the land slippage and stuff that we experienced was actually set up by government.
Set up?
Well, that's the word.
Okay.
By having the folks who go out and do the road cleaning and the bushing and stuff like cutting the bushes in those areas and removing. And he's saying he think governments have set it up for that to happen by removing those because there are certain areas where you will refrain from cutting for various reasons because these will support the soil structure and so forth, so it doesn't slide. So it was just
so maybe the choice of what setup comes here. Maybe what he wants to say is that they should have some blame to take for doing certain things. But to say they set it up, it gives a different. That's why I said set up.
Well, it's a matter of how you brought it across. Yes, I didn't want to laugh, but
in essence, he's
correct about it. What he's saying,
Yeah, you look at in some cases the kind of strategies that are employed and the kind of things, and sometimes the people who do some things, and you wonder, whether they have particular instructions to do things at particular time, or whether they examine the science behind and the area and what everything is not applicable to every area every time.
Even though it enhanced the overall infrastructure in terms of how it looks, but sometimes it's better it left untouched than really dealing with it.
Yeah, because I've heard people speak about the debushing program and the treeing program where they cut some branches and other things and so on, and how far people should go, and then the exposing of aspects of the land that could lead to land slippage, and as to whether or not careful planning was done into that. And you may have heard us speak about when you're doing even moving of land slippage areas or landslides, and when you do of cutting wall rocks, how do you do it? When we speak about they cut it at particular angles rather than terracing it or benching it in a certain ways. And then we also speak about some mitigation efforts, whether you would use caged-in method or whether we would use gabion baskets or otherwise based on the soil type in particular areas. And there are different types of gabion baskets too. There are gabion baskets that are insulated that will be best suited to the coastal areas, and there are other gabion baskets that are just the metal type that you can use for the inland. Those will take less time to erode. Those that goes by the sea, once they're insulated, it will give you some more resilience. And so those are inland, you don't necessarily need to use the insulated ones. And sometimes people may not even think about that, and they even use the gabion baskets. While they can use them along the river edges, then as you go closer to the coastline, you don't want to be using those
because of the salt
and so definitely
the corrosion building up and so forth.
Exactly. And so when we speak again of areas so prone to landslides or land slippage, when we speak of liquefaction, areas that are known to have water that might be passing or settling in some areas, those areas are prone to land slippage, and areas that may have been water courses where people dumped and other persons coming to build in those areas or do activities in those areas, those kind of studies, engineering designs and so geotechnical studies have not been undertaken, or geophysical studies have not been taken into consideration, where you could understand and know, well, this action is not really suitable for that. So when people speak about the government and the state mechanism, I think what they're trying to say is that in essence, our planning processes need to be better in terms of what we do when and how we do it.
We're due for a break, Mr. McIntyre. Let's take it when we come back. We continue the discussion. Stay with us, folks. We will be right back after the break. Don't touch it down.
Blake with GBN News. From all of us here at the Grenada Broadcasting Network, we wish you and your family a joyous holiday season filled with peace, love, and happiness. Thank you you for continuing to make GBN our nation's #1 newscast. It's been our honor throughout 2024 to bring you timely updates of local and international news, and we'll continue to earn your trust as we move into 2025. We wish our beautiful island nation God's continued protection as we move forward as one people who are on one journey with one future. Happy holidays from the GBN News team.
Grenada Duty Free and GBN, we are partnering for this Christmas season. Folks, it's going to be a bumper one. We can actually start feeling the energy, the vibe is start building, the promotions that start coming in, and the fragrances, the chocolate. We have up to 15%, 20%, 40%. It's going to be a crazy one. We are looking forward to seeing you. We are ready to treat you guys special. We are ready to give back to you after this whole year of, being with us and everything and the support. So with our partnership with GBN, it's going to be a bumper season. Looking forward to seeing you guys.
Proud sponsors of Christmas with GBN includes Ace Hardware, Hubbard's, Flow, Duty Free Caribbean, and I'm Supportings. Looking to take your business to new heights? Advertise with GBN on our social media platforms and get noticed by our 138,000 plus followers. Reach a massive engaged audience ready to connect with your brand. No matter your business size, GBN is here to help you grow. Contact us today at admin@gbn.gd or WhatsApp 407-8458 to get started.
Welcome back to our listeners. Welcome back, viewers. It's To The Point, Classic Radio, GBN TV. Welcome back, Mr. McIntyre.
Yeah.
We want to move on. Can we a bit strapped for time?
Yeah, man.
Time flies when you're having fun, they say. Right?
But remind me that, so I told you that every time we come on the program, there are some people we need to give flowers. So remind me.
Go right. Maybe you should do that before we get into the conversation.
Okay,
Just
good.
Give them those flowers.
So, yeah, man. So within the last couple of days, I want to give Ministry of Health some flowers. Mm-hmm. They actually invited me into a STAR tool that evaluates the health emergency response system generally. Yeah. And I have to really shout out, I think it's Kevin, the information up.
Yeah, I know.
One of the things that we mentioned on our program previously was the use of defibrillators. Mm-hmm. And defibrillators, they call them AED, automated external defibrillators. And a defibrillator is an instrument that is used to what we call jumpstart the heart, or it assists in the CPR process. So if somebody has a mild heart attack or a mild stroke, or they may have collapsed for some reason, and there's an absence of a heartbeat, or maybe breathing might be low or otherwise, particularly for the heart, you can use a defibrillator. It's an instrument that you put the sticky pad, one on top, one on the bottom, and it speaks and says shock required. He reported and showed me pictures of them having access a few of them defibrillators that are now in the hands of nurses. They are now in the hands of some places, health facilities and other places.
Are there ambulances around the island?
Ambulance is one of the places that he told me that they put a couple of them. Okay. So that is a welcome initiative for Grenada, and he said he agreed with me that to a large extent it should be regulated, mandated, that places that deal with certain amount of people, defibrillators are some of the things that should, because somebody may collapse in some place like the airport, the ministerial complex, a school, a place where people gather plenty. A defibrillator is critical to that process. And he told me, and I was really happy. He said,
but were they also training process of people, of course, having that knowledge of how to use those particular machines? That is also critical, you know.
Oh, yeah. That is one of the easier instruments. Despite it is very technical, it is one of the easier instruments because it's automated. It speaks. Yeah. All you need to do is to turn it on.
Follow the instruction as
it goes on. It says, it turns on. It says analyzing. You put the sticky pad one and top one at the bottom. There's a diagram that shows you what to do, and it says analyzing, stand back. Then it says shock required or shock not required. It analyzes, and then you say stand clear, shock required, shock delivered. That's how the instrument works.
Okay.
So that if you understand,
those are the more automated ones.
Yeah, because that is what it is really. They're all supposed to be automated. It's an 80 automated external defibrillators. There's seldom I come across any that is not automated that really give a voice into what should happen. So that is how they set up. They are to find the most in areas where there's a total collapse or total failure, where they had gone in a process called fibrillation. That instrument defibrillates, or in other words, it goes to a point where the heartbeat is very, very low, so it is not able to send blood into circulation around the body. So persons may collapse, and they might be there for a while. Oxygen obviously cannot go through because it goes through the bloodstream and so forth. So that instrument, what it does, it gives the heart a sudden jolt. With that jolt it gives the heart, it sends the blood that is sitting there around the body in quick time, and it may be the process just what people require to recover. And so AEDs are critical instruments. I already wanted to give Ministry of Health a big tap on the shoulder for having moved that process, and he said there are more in train for Grenada to benefit from.
All right. So that's our main flowers we're offering this month?
That's the main flowers Ministry of Health. And also they're looking at further enhancing the instruments to deal with all kinds of, they have a multi-hazard plan. And that's one of the reasons, two reasons why my intuition drove me into wanting to expand on the need to have plans across country. The impact and the response to Hurricane Beryl.
Yes.
And what's happening after COVID-19 and the initiative by some places not to have or to have plans in place in the event of some emergency. So within the last, that was one of the bigger things that happened. So
as we are along that conversation in terms of plans, there's always the emergency plan that we should have. As a nation, that contingency plan we should have. A business should always have that plan, just in case. It also goes back not only for health reasons only, but there are the various emergencies that will be developed from time to time.
Yes.
Fire and all of these plays a part in it. And having that contingency plan is certainly important for all sectors of the economy. What's your take on that?
So it's that's why we chose that slot to speak about, because I recognize that we seems while we came from Hurricane Ivan 20 years ago, and quite a few instruments were developed, we seems to have gone back to the position where people have gotten
complacent, the word again?
Comfortable. I don't want to use complacent again. To the point where they think we don't need to do certain things anymore. And some people have written instruments, but they are only so good as when something happened and you're able to upgrade them or update them. So people who have designed instruments after Hurricane Ivan, they never went back to look at them. They never went on to develop SOPs to complement these plans. They never went on to develop policies to give legal teeth and authenticity to those plans. And so we find ourselves in a stagnant position. We are moving, nothing happened. We got the process to one point and we stopped. And now we have Hurricane Beryl that came 20 years after. And you realize still there were some limitations, despite that aspects that we did many years ago prove that we are in a better place to respond, to recover, and to do a lot of things. And I was at the 20 years process looking at Hurricane Ivan, and I heard the Prime Minister mention that Grenada is in a better place to respond to emergency. As a matter of fact, he threw out a challenge and said Grenada could teach how to respond now, and I was happy to hear that, because around that time,
but are we
the United States?
But are we in a better place, sir?
The United States was battling with one of the hurricanes. I think it was the southern coast. I think Florida.
Was it Hurricane Ellen?
I think at just impact. And Prime Minister was saying we can teach them how to respond to emergencies and disasters and so on, because from recent experience, he thinks that we've done well in following through on the experiences of the past. Yes, we have done some things. We have created some instruments, but there are still so many weaknesses within the system that we need to enhance. And apart from having national plans driven by NADMA and otherwise, there are other plans and instruments that needs to still be generated and or designed, and those that have been designed over years, they need to be updated and they need to be tested, not by real systems. We had a real system that we got tested again in 2024.
Yeah.
We've never had a situation where hurricane of that magnitude, a category 4, had impacted Grenada. And worse yet, impacted one of our sister isles with less resources. So there's a lot of lessons to learn from that. It puts us in a better place because we can become more comprehensive in terms of our preparedness across country. We now know the limitations with Carriacou and Petit Martinique from real experience as well as Grenada. So maybe coming from all of this, Grenada could continue to be a model for the rest of the Caribbean, and Grenada can continue to build on its resources. The gaps that still exist, while there is a national plan, while there's a national entity that it is responsible for driving the country's resources and the country's response and regional mechanism. However, there are sectors, departments that need to do their own work. Business contingency. There are some businesses that do not have a business continuity plan, meaning they don't have a structure as to what if. If something happened, who's responsible for what and how and what do we need very quickly to get back up
and who takes the lead in terms
and who takes the lead in what?
Yeah.
And even if there are some businesses that do have a business contingency plan, they still do lack the policy that would drive it, and they still lack the standard operating procedure that would say how it should be done. So I've seen a lot of businesses, I've seen a lot of entities that have a plan, and it's basically just a plan.
Yeah, never do drills or anything.
You ask the staff about it, they are aware, yes, we do have a plan, but there's no drill, there's no simulation exercise, and there's no annual review of that plan to incorporate the limitations that you identified.
Times are changing, from time to time.
Rapidly.
What may have worked for you 3 years ago may not have worked this time.
Absolutely. Around. So we're in a very good place now for across country, from the national level right down to grassroots, for us to review our plans, our processes, our procedure, and to put the instruments and things in place that would make us a bit more resilient, to make us more effective in our response. Because quick and rapid response, effective and good response aid the economic recovery to a large extent. And when you have an economy that could rebound quickly, when you have your gross domestic product, your GDP that will be affected by sometime 100+%. Hurricane Ivan, we lost about 212% of our gross domestic product. That takes you a while to get back up. And when you look at the World Bank speaking of our economic growth, and within the midst of crisis, we are still speaking of economic growth. It says a lot about your ability and what you have in place to ensure those buffers. For instance, Ministry of Finance understand that if there is a crisis, what do we have to keep or to get people to, or the country to generate finance? What do we have at the ports to ensure that the port that we're so strongly dependent on will get finances coming through as quickly as possible? Yeah. What do we have within tourism that we would quickly get the tourism industry back and running? What do we have in agriculture? And we have to again look at some of the newer initiatives that now exist, and they are increasing within agriculture.
Yeah.
The fisher folks, the farmers. We had the CRIF, the Caribbean Catastrophic Risk Insurance, that is aiding. Even NAWASA this time around benefited from that insurance facility. So when we have buffers and instruments like these, our plans speak to them. It means that when we do have an impact, we will have more impacts, but how we can rise from it, like we've had a small one over the weekend, that shouldn't retard us to a large extent, because we should have the systems and structures in place, not just working on existing tradition and principles of the past, but we must have not just tradition, we must have embedded instruments that would guide, and they should be guided by some regulation. And I'm happy to report that we do have a disaster management legislation enacted. That is something that's been there for 20 plus years on the books.
Yes.
And they finally have a disaster management act that Grenada's disaster management would be guided by. But we're looking to see across country that sectors would come alive. And this is where we are. I'm part of a company, the Caribbean Disaster Risk Management Solution. That is part of our functions to be able to help people to design insurance of this nature. So while we recognize these weaknesses, it's not just an opportunity for us to capitalize on finances and resources otherwise, but it's an opportunity for us to be able to build our resilience. Yeah. When you build your resilience, when you are able to do things much quicker, especially if you are a finance-generating entity and so forth, you don't want to be staying on the ground for too long. I looked at the banks. One of the banks after Hurricane Ivan, and I think their plan might have spoken to that. If their plan did not speak to it, but they now have to write that into their plan.
Yes.
From mainland, they were on Carriacou, and they had mobile ATMs and so forth. They set up these immediately, and people within a matter of hours were able to have limited withdrawal of finances that they can get to do things quickly.
The basic support.
And that's what plans and instruments should speak to. So I'm sorry that the conversation has to be shortened this morning.
Yeah.
But as we go through, I am hoping to be able to give a framework, a simple framework as to what people can do to ensure they have some form of structure within the business entity, and not just within the business.
But it leads back to their personal, their primary homes too, and
family and things.
Private homes.
You know, NADMA, and I want to commend the Youth Initiative, Youth Emergency Action. These people have been driving family disaster plans.
But how many families in Grenada really take the time out to sit down and design an emergency plan or disaster plans for their families? Do you think folks on also small island take that particular initiative to really design one of that?
I could actually ask for the statistics, but I know there are a few. But it's in the minority.
You know, so that we just don't see the importance of it until a particular emergency occurs. And then we see, I should have. That particular will always come. I should have done that, or I should have done this. Until something actually happens.
So remember last couple of weeks we spoke about, I think it was the Grenada Olympic Commission. They had done some work with their coaches and athletes in first response. Over the weekend they received certificates for what they had gone through. But that's not the point. There was at least one person who came from a very, very prominent person within that was trained. He was able to speak of an incident within his family where what he learned and his structure that he had worked until they saved the life of his son.
Yeah, right.
So in some way it seemed small, it seemed insignificant, but when you start with a family setting, you have a structure within your family, it helps you into your workplace.
Yes.
It helps you eventually into your club structure and organizations. It helps you then into community structure, then villages, districts, and it goes into your national resilience capacity. So it is important that we build strong families in terms of not just good family morals and other things like that, but in terms of preparedness for emergencies, contingencies for business and everything. It starts with the families.
All right. Mr. Mac, we had to take a wrap for today's program. Of course, a little of a shortened version of it.
Yes.
But we still get a lot of information. Of course, it leads for always the option of expanding on it on our next session when we do come around, of course, and then still implement something new in the conversation. I want to thank you once again for still taking the time to pop in, even though the prior engagement, you should have taken 15, but it took you more than. So hopefully the entity may listen to our program here, hear your concern about relation and they fix timing.
Yes, they should. They should.
Mr. McIntyre, thank you once again. Have a great day, sir. And we do this next week again.
My pleasure.
Once the Almighty permits, health, strength, and everything else.
My pleasure.
No emergencies occur that we have to...
And if emergencies occur, we are in a better place to be able to deal with them because we have the framework in Grenada for us to be able to do multi-hazard response.
Great. Hey, folks, that's how we take a wrap for this edition of To The Point. Thanks to all who contributed towards today's program. Have yourself a great one, folks. And we say goodbye for today. Goodbye, folks.